the acknowledgement of country. So in spirit of reconciliation, SI Randwick and Eastern Suburbs acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. A very warm welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us for our second installment of Extraordinary Women Speaker Series. That's a mouthful on its own, isn't it? Our topic for tonight is Women in Tech. And so tonight I'd like to present to you Catherine Mavo. Catherine, if you just give us all a friendly wave.
Hi everyone, and thank you, Nikki and Joanna, for inviting me today, this evening. And I also wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet. I'm on Gadigal country, and I acknowledge the past, the emerging and current leaders of that tribe.
Thank you so much, Catherine. So everybody knows Catherine works in an industry that is known to be dominated by men. She's worked her way up the ladder, not only to carry out her own duties, but a voice for equality in the workplace. As you already know, Catherine transitioned 30 years ago, almost to the day in October, I remember you saying, Catherine. So tonight we will try and take some time to just explore her journey in parallel. Catherine, again, thank you for joining us. So, you work at IBM, that's International Business Machines Corporation, just in case anybody didn't know that. They've been around for 110 years, and they're also listed on the stock exchange, a multinational global tech giant. How did you end up at IBM, and what do you do there?
Hi. Well, my journey to IBM has been quite an interesting one. They first tried to headhunt me as part of the Olympic Games. So we did all the back office for the Olympic Games. They tried to headhunt me then, and I went and turned them down. I said, no, not willing to do it. So that's fine. I went off and did a few other things. And then my boss, I ended up at Fujitsu, which is the Japanese equivalent of IBM. And my boss left there and went to IBM, and he literally headhunted me and told me, Catherine, you're coming over with me whether you like it or not. And I said, no, you've tried, it's not going to happen. And you know, I'm not going to say they threw money at me, but you know, they threw a few opportunities at me where I couldn't say no. So basically, they gave me a role that I couldn't say no to, so which was good. It was quite ironic that I interviewed for a role, which was great. It was a test manager, senior test manager role. And it took 3 months for me to onboard IBM, so which is fine. And then by the time I turned up, I had a different role, and I didn't even know I had a different role. So I started, and I was actually put into a sales team where I was selling services to a major bank here in Australia, so basically software services. So I just went and said, okay, that's how that happens. And so, yeah, that's what I do. How I got into IBM. What I do now is I'm the head of operations for our business transformation organization. So basically, I report into our growth platform, or our senior leader. And I run his business for him. So basically, I run everything from sales to workforce management to financial management. So I have a team under me who manages all that, but all that reports into me, and I actually report that into them. So I actually basically run the day-to-day operations of that business of around about 600 people here in Australia. So yeah,
that's incredible. Now you've been with IBM for a while, but how did you end up in the IT industry to start with? You said you were at Fujitsu as well. So how did you get into it?
So a little bit of background of me is, you know, I am transgender. I transitioned quite early in my life at 19. But when I actually went and sat for my HSC, they actually had really low scores to actually get into IT at that time, because they were trying to actually get people in, that IT was not a cool or a very popular subject to actually do. So I kind of fell in because, you know, of my grades and all that sort of stuff. I kind of went and did my degree, didn't really like it. I didn't like coding. I didn't like editing. I was good at analysis. I was good at testing, but I really hated coding. I didn't want to be a coder. And so I joined the public service. And back then, how the department actually qualified all of their systems was they used to get people from the regional office to come and actually test this system. And so I just happened to be one of the people that they selected to actually do it. So I kind of fell into that by kind of default again. And then I suddenly realized, you know, I could make more money in IT outside of the public service. So I left the public service. I went consulting for a number of years. I had my own computer company of 10 people for through Y2K, and you know, when GST came around, sold it, you know, which was great, and then was consulting. I was just doing individual consulting type thing. Then kind of had enough when the bottom kind of fell out of, you know, the IT market. So I just took the first permanent job that I could find, and that was in Canberra. And they happened to be bought by someone who happened to be bought by someone who happened to be bought by Fujitsu, you know, so which is fine. And then that's my story. You know, I kind of fell into it. I focused on testing for a number of years. I would have said for about 15 years. But when I joined IBM, as I said, I started in testing. I went into sales. I then went into what they called trouble projects. So any projects that were troubled, because I have a project management background as well. So they went into me to rescue projects. And that's where I kind of fell into stuff. And at IBM, the good thing about it is you have opportunity.
Yeah.
And the best thing that I found with any opportunity is you've just got to grasp it. And that's how I've actually done with most of my career. An opportunity's fallen on my plate. I've just grasped it. I've rolled with it. And I've actually learnt the lessons of basically the job, but also basically maybe taking that or my previous experience and applying it to my current job. And that's how I kind of got where I currently am now, is I've taken all my other jobs within IBM and kind of molded it, mashed it into my current job, which has been good.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's just a very determined personality right there. And obviously starting at such a young age.
And the thing is, what I do is I don't see failure as a negative, you know, and I do see that most people, especially in IT, kind of do, they hook onto the failure. A failure is just a thing that just happens. It happens in life, you know. You can't dwell on it. You've got to move on. And the people who I find are most successful in business, and especially in IT, are the ones who don't actually, you know, live in the past. You've got to actually go, well, that didn't work. Moving on to something that does work and all that sort of stuff. And that's how I've applied things with my own life, how I applied with that with my gender. I didn't like my gender. I changed it because that's what I do. I changed my gender. And I've applied that principle to my whole life. And I do that now with business. You know, today a problem will land on my desk. It will be a problem. I'll try and fix it. If it doesn't work, you apply another fix and maybe that works. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just the thing, right? I mean, there's so many facets in IT, like it's software, it's hardware, it's analyzing, it's putting projects together, taking them apart, fixing what's going on. And so what you're actually saying is you've got to be very adaptable. And if you stick to thinking about, oh, what I did wrong and what I didn't succeed at, it kind of just stops you from doing what should be done and to see what your actual growth can be, right?
Exactly. And, you know, a failure is just a moment in time. It's not how you are defined. What I've found with, especially in IT, is people you're not defined by the failure. You're defined by how you recover by the failure. You're defined by how quickly you recover by the failure. You know, we see that all the time with, you know, men in IT type thing. I have people who have progressed in their career further than me, faster than me, and they've done some really good disasters, and I've been the one who fixed it. The thing is, and I know one person smiling here because I used to work with her and she knows that about this, which has been quite good. But, you know, they aren't defined by their failures. They are defined by going, oh, that was a crap project, but by the way, they actually fixed it for the next time. So they've actually taken that on board type thing. So I do find, especially with IT, especially I do find for, you know, females, you know, we try and overanalyze the mistakes. It's actually, that doesn't work in IT, in the business world. It doesn't work. It's actually going, learn from the mistake and move on. The quicker you recover, the more successful you will actually be. So, yeah.
It's actually quite interesting because for the better part of it, you know, you're talking about men who make those mistakes. Women are often classed or said to be the ones who overanalyze things and make it worse, or overthink something. And sometimes it's not just about the overthinking, but it's just about fixing what's been messed up and then moving on and never doing the same thing again. So
exactly, you learn from your mistakes. I've learned in all of my roles, sometimes what not to do in future. You know, it doesn't have to be a positive learning. It's basically, you've got to turn everything to a positive learning. Right. I have learned sometimes not to work with individuals because, you know, they are a disaster. You know, I have learnt that, you know, and that's where I think what most people, their doubt, that what happens to them is they kind of fixate on, you know, what went wrong or that person or whatever. It's like, just move on. You've got to move on and, you know, learn the lesson. Great, not a problem. But you move on and recover quickly. So, yeah.
That's right. So you've obviously fallen into IT at a very young age and then progressed right throughout your career, different facets of it. Just for our general audience, how have you seen the IT industry changing, whether it's, you know, on a professional level or just more diverse? How have you seen that change? You've obviously traveled as well a lot with your job, so you've experienced the IT industry in different countries. So what changes have you seen that have been pertinent to you?
Look, this has been quite an interesting journey, especially for IT. Like when I started out in IT and when I went off to university, you know, it pretty much was white males. Pretty much, you know, it was very rare that you would have anyone of Asian background. You wouldn't find anyone from an Indian background. That was basically there. And you very rarely would you see a female.
Yeah,
you would not actually see that type thing. As we progressed, and basically, and I think it's been around about, you know, 1999 here in Australia. And that's because basically we did not have the skills. We did not have the people. We actually were able to actually bring people in to Australia on visas and all that sort of stuff, where we've had that population of, you know, Asian people of Asian and Indian backgrounds type thing. So it's been quite an interesting journey for the IT space, just from a diversity perspective, because normally most people think of diversity, it's basically male, female. It's actually, it hasn't. It's actually been like a cultural diversity as well. Now, I have actually spent some time in India, and it's been quite an interesting time where you know, most people, you know, in the 2000s, you know, you go to India and it was a tough place to be in. And, you know, I remember someone's going into an office and I'm not going to say it wasn't clean, but it was like, you know, it was, you know, it looked like someone's garage. Let's be very clear. Now you go on there and it's swanky, it's schmick, it's great. They have better offices than what we have over here, which has been great. And we can actually showcase that sort of stuff. So I think basically as the infrastructure for India, I think there's a skill set for India, and that's the same for the Philippines, has actually improved. I think the actual IT industry, especially in India, is just amazing type thing. And I actually have projects where I actually purely run out of India. And I have actually visited them several times. And those guys are clever, they're smart and all that sort of stuff. And they are actually really good at their actually jobs and all that sort of stuff, which is, it's been great to actually see some of their development over the years as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, so it's all about investing in that potential, right? That we once thought just never existed. I mean, like I said to you when we chatted the other day, you know, I'm a qualified PC engineer. And back then when I was studying in 1999 or 2000, I was one of 4 girls in the class of 105 students, of which I was the only one that had a different skin color.
Yeah.
And then thereafter, one of only 5 of the whole class who ended up in the industry. And I think that the thing, as you've just said, is when you realize that the potential does not only lie in one single bracket, you discover that there's just gold everywhere else. And so just like with India, I guess it's good that they're pumping money into that, because that's where the talent lies.
Yeah, and it's interesting for IBM. So we're not only just focused in India, you know, we are a global company type thing. We are doing Romania, which is actually the East, which is in Eastern Europe. We're actually doing Italy. You know, we're doing South America. We're doing the Philippines as well, because basically our clients are actually wanting a diversity of thought. They want a diversity of that. And I mean, there is the old adage that, you know, we did kind of steal it from, you know, the British, where the sun never stops on IBM. You know, if you want a 24-hour-by-7 business and support from a business, we actually have offices all around the world, which basically as soon as it actually goes night, another team can actually pick it up. And we actually do that all the time. I mean, that's one of the beauties of actually working for an international company, is actually you do get that experience, you do get that exposure, which is great. And it actually brings on the diversity as well.
Yeah, it's incredible. You get to know so many people all around the world. You get to see what you all have in common. And then you also learn a lot about life in general, how people operate everywhere else. So that's a great strategy, not just for IBM, but for all these companies. I mean, in terms of IT, it's just so 24 hours a day. So you never miss a beat.
Yeah, and it's been quite interesting with COVID, you know, with COVID we're hitting, you know, it's been quite interesting from a perspective of some companies were so much about the work has to be done onshore. It has to be done here. It has to be done in an office that's in a secure zone. Well, congratulations, COVID's just proven that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. You know, I have colleagues who now have moved out of Sydney. You know, they're still telecommuting into Sydney. You know, we do have some obviously challenges around data and data privacy with India, because obviously when people are in a centre, they're covered by certain laws, but when persons actually outside of the firewall, which is kind of like the magical wall of security, basically at home in India, but they're not within the firewall, there's probably some data issues, and some of the banks didn't really like that when COVID first hit. So you will find that whilst most companies have gone to a very strong offshoring model prior to COVID, we are finding that there is going to be a more hybrid onshore offshore model that is probably going to come out of this one, which I think is going to be good for the Australian IT business and actually help us for that as well as for New Zealand. There probably won't be a complete offshore model now. There's going to be a hybrid type thing. IBM's been very clever. We have what they call a new term, which is a nearshore capability, which is a regional. We've developed Ballarat. We're about to announce 2 other regional centres. We're basically attached to universities, so we have the feeder of that, which basically we were building centres where we can have that nearshore capability. So for those clients who are not 100% comfortable with offshoring, they're not comfortable with India, they're not comfortable with Philippines, you know, they've got some issues around data privacy. Government departments are a good example for that. You know, we're going to be having that nearshore capability. Well, we currently have nearshore capability in Ballarat, but we're going to actually expand that, and that'll probably be double in size. I can't announce anything because that's going to be announced next year, but there is that big move to, you know, that hybrid model and you'll start to hear the term nearshoring, and nearshoring just basically means it's a regional centre. So it's actually good for regional centres. It's good for the actual company. It's good for clients as well.
Yeah, that's incredible. I've been in real estate now in Sydney for a few years, and we've been using offshoring or outsourcing for quite a while, and it's been a very difficult concept for people to understand. However, as you say, with COVID, the idea of bricks and mortar has just gone out the window, and we've all had to learn how to innovate. And I guess for the IT industry, that's been incredible, because it's actually forced the IT industry to take a different leap to ensure that, as you're saying, data security and everything is just taken care of to ease clients' worries about it. So
yeah, it's a big concern for data privacy. I mean, we hear stories about data being stolen all the time, and that's why it's important to have these models that, you know, if depending on people's risk factors, it will actually determine what goes on. So, yes.
Fantastic. Now, Catherine, let's get into a bit about how it all started. Tell us a little bit about your childhood, your family life, and growing up in small town Narrandera.
Small town Narrandera.
There you go. For those of you who don't know where that is, it's about 100 kilometres inland from Wagga.
Yes. So, yes, thank you. So, look, I had a relatively a different childhood from most people. I'm from conservative parents, and they're farming folk. So I grew up, as Nikki said, in small town Narrandera. I'm the youngest of 5 children. You know, I grew up on a farm. My parents, you know, my mum was trained to be a nurse. My dad was a farmer type thing. They were very religious. So there was religious sometimes. My father was a Mason. So if anyone knows what Masons are, which is a high level of religion, so we are talking about that. I kind of discovered, well, I remember around about 4 or 5. I always knew I was different. I always thought I was a girl, you know, didn't realize the concept of boys and girls. I didn't understand that concept. It wasn't until I was about 5 that I was having a weird conversation with one of our neighbours, who asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. And my response was I wanted to be a nun, because, you know, Sally Field was playing on the television and I thought she was cool, you know, and being from country, she wore white. White is a good colour on me. So, yes, I kind of thought it does. So, and so, you know, from the Dust Bowl of basically Australia. And so I discovered, you know, very early on that I was different. You know, I was different. I was told I couldn't be a nun. I could be a priest, which that's not going to happen. You know, they kind of thought they took the religious undertone of the conversation as opposed to the gender part of the conversation, which is cool. So obviously I was told I wasn't able to be a nun, and I was very, very disappointed. I suppressed every feeling like most children do. And then it wasn't until I was about 13 and I happened to be a documentary, I think it was Four Corners on the ABC, then about this person who had actually transitioned, and they had the interview of that person, and that's kind of where I went, oh my God, that's me. That is me. This person had moved from the western suburbs to Sydney. So I was going, right, I need to do everything I can do to move to Sydney, because that's where, you know, I'll be able to change and all that sort of stuff. I learned education was the key to get out of my small town. And so I studied hard. I was basically second. I wasn't dux of the school, but I came a close second and all that sort of stuff. I studied my little butt off, because basically it wasn't to get the holy certificate at the end. It was so I could move to Sydney and I could start my life, because that's what I was going to do. My parents, when I told them, they were shocked, you know. When I did transition, it was the tail end of, you know, the AIDS crisis type thing. So people kind of thought I was gay, you know, because that's what people were like. They didn't understand the concept of trans, so they thought I was gay. And people kind of were stuck in their head of going, well, if you're gay, you're going to get AIDS and you're going to die. So that's where my parents went, you know, that's their head. Obviously, that didn't happen and all that sort of stuff, so which is great. I left school, went to university, transitioned at university, and basically then left university and then went and joined the public service. And that's my childhood. I mean, my family, I have some that are accepting, which is great. I have some that aren't accepting, and that's okay. I was troubled by that in my 20s. I'm now completely reconciled with that,
Sure.
They have the issue, I don't have the issue type thing. I'm living a really great life, which is awesome. And, it is what it is type thing. I mean, but it hasn't stopped me from being, doing my job and doing all that sort of stuff. I've kind of wanted to be, the best I can always be. And, I know of the age demographic here, we're always told women have to work twice as hard for half the recognition, which is great. I learned very early in my career that I had to work 3 times for only a third. So that's why I've been very driven. That's why I've always taken chances. That's why I've always, gone out of my way for that drive, because I've always thought that I need to actually beat everyone and prove everyone that, being trans is not going to actually hold me back. It's not going to actually hold me back. I don't think it has held me back. I have a really good career. I speak a lot, and, I'm quite comfortable with who I am.
That's a wonderful story. I mean, it just blows my mind the first time I heard it as well. And it's, I guess, just in the same way, the reality is some people just deal with change better than others, and deal with acceptance better than others. And I guess, in connection with the next question, in terms of how your journey professionally and personally went 30 years ago when you were transitioning, I guess more so what I want to ask you is, what kind of support did you have from professionals, if any? What was that situation like? How easy was it to get your operation going? And that's probably something that I've thought about, and it would be good to just have a listen about.
Look, I transitioned I had transitioned not life way. I only did that when I actually started working. I still was, I guess the term was cross-dressing at uni, but I really didn't actually transition until I actually started working. And I did it the really bad way. I would probably say I did it the bad way type thing. I sat for the public service exam as a boy. I interviewed as a boy. When they rang up and told me that I had the job, I said, "Oh, that's great, not a problem. By the way, I'm starting as a girl."
I love it.
Done.
What did they say to that?
They went, okay. Because by that stage, they couldn't discriminate. We had public service, you had anti-discrimination laws. So I kind of worked the system into my favour. Let's be very clear about it. Don't want to be rude about it type thing. But, that was good. And, did I have support there? Not really back then, because back then it was 30 odd years ago. There wasn't that much of support of that. I mean, there wasn't that many transgender people there. I mean, I say this is, I was normally the only trans in the room for the majority of my career. I've been in meetings, I've been in companies, I've worked in companies where I'm literally the only trans person in that company type thing. 9 times out of 10, I am the only trans person in a meeting full of, cis individuals type thing. I'm the only trans person in a room full of men of actually IT. And so what I've actually discovered was I was always waiting for someone to stand up. I was always waiting for someone to be that role model and to be my support network. Around about 10 years ago, I suddenly realized no one was standing up. The only person who could stand up is me. So that's when I actually decided to come out again, and actually start public speaking and actually start to be out there, especially in the community, is because I got sick of waiting for people. And I suddenly realized if I'm waiting, there's potentially other people who are waiting. And why, if I don't have anyone, they don't have anyone. Well, if I stand up, then they'll at least have someone, they'll have at least someone to actually to be there. And that's one of the reasons why I stood up. I've had friends of mine who've clearly went and told me that I should not out myself about that because my career would stop. And for a while, I thought it would. The protections we've had in Australia only really came in about for work, about employment, was in 2015.
That's crazy.
I always say that was the only good thing that Julia Gillard ever did in her thing. But that's a political statement, seriously. We'll talk politics another time, seriously.
Coffee on that one.
Well,
that actually just leads to one of the questions that I see one of our members just popped on the screen there.
Yeah.
Did being transgender, let me just make sure I get that question right from Mona. Have you had the experience of being held back career-wise because of being transgender? And I guess that just ties in with what you were saying in terms of standing up. So
yeah, look, I would probably say in 2000, I was consulting and it was ironic of everyone in the team got their contract renewed, but I didn't.
Mm.
And I'm not going to name the organisation because that's not there. And the world was different then. I have no ill will on the individual or the organisation. It was just, it was what it was. Was time there. Was it because I was trans? I'm not quite sure type thing. It's a little bit ironic that I was the only one and everyone there. And quite frankly, because it was a contracting role, they found someone else to do my job who I actually know who wasn't as good as me. Let's be very clear about it. But, you've got to back yourself seriously, so, which is
good.
Of
course.
But I would say that's probably the only time that I've actually had a level of, which I believe was a level of discrimination because I was actually trans. And there, I mean, I am quite lucky. I'm extremely lucky, from how I present type thing. Yeah. I'm not tall. I'm quite petite. I'm 5'6". I present very well type thing. So unless I actually, and I hate to say that actually works in my favor. That actually works in my favor. I want to put this in inverted commas because I hate using the term presentable, it's one of the things that I've been quite lucky in regards to my features type thing. The biggest problem that I have is I have, I'm mouthy, I'll give back, isn't it? I give back, I
can see your work colleagues agreeing to that.
Once they were sniggering then with my work colleagues type thing, which is great. I'm not the demure little flower type thing. I'm the one that goes in with the lawyers type thing. I'm the one basically fronting up for the argument, hoping everyone's behind me type thing. So
she's the one you want on your side when you're going for a fight. So there
exactly.
You go.
I'm renegotiating a contract at the moment for IBM. And the client has basically said, we really didn't want you to be actually on the other side of the table.
That stands to testament.
I don't play ball. I was going, I'm not playing your game. You're playing my game. Seriously, done with that.
You got to go.
Exactly.
Just one of the other questions from one of our members is, how do you introduce yourself in new workplaces or with new people? Do you mention that you're trans off the bat or just straight off the bat, or do you get asked? Or obviously when you're meeting new people might Google you. You're not known, so naturally the conversation comes up. Or do you introduce it? How do you go about it?
It depends on the setting. It really depends on the setting type thing. So if I'm in an LGBTI networking setting, I normally do out myself type thing, but it's also just where it's appropriate type thing. If I'm actually across a negotiating table, renegotiating contract, really not appropriate. So I don't really do that type thing. Yeah. I really take on basically where I also feel comfortable and all that sort of stuff. I know there are some people in IBM, who were heads of the, marriage equality campaign for the negative type thing. They work for IBM. I work for them every day. I'm very sensitive of their beliefs. I respect their beliefs. I think they're wrong, which is fine. But, you know, there's not going to be a meeting where I say, well, hi, so-and-so. I don't want to say their name. I'm not going to say their name. Hi, I'm Catherine Trans type thing. He knows I'm trans type thing. We don't need to actually do that.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't want to say Google me, but you can Google me and basically it's out there. Trust me, it's out there. Whether I like it or not.
That's what I said.
It's
not like you're not known. So
yeah, exactly. And I'm okay with that. I'm very comfortable with that. You know, I'm very comfortable where I'm at. I'm very comfortable as they are known as trans type thing. But I've always went and said to people, especially with IBM, is I wouldn't be known as a project manager because that's based on my background now. Yeah. Project manager who happens to be trans as opposed to the trans project manager type thing. There's a big one about nuances for that type thing. I want that. I don't want to be defined as being trans.
Absolutely.
But I also want to actually want to be actually defined as this is my job and all that sort of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And you know, that was one of the questions as well, in terms of, you know, it's been challenging being a woman in a man's world. I mean, IBM's been around for 110 years. They've seen the changes in terms of gadgets, things they do, how they do it. They've seen it in their own people. We've spoken about the diversity and you know, just in terms of how challenging it was for you. But your position, as you've just said, is quite clear. You are who you are within the company, but then using your voice as a champion for equality in the workplace, what advice, this is just one of the other questions that's come through, what advice would you give to young trans professionals today that you wish you knew when you started your journey back then?
Look, it's been quite interesting. So there's been a number of studies done about bringing your whole self to work and actually basically being, you know, basically you're linked to your productivity. There is a thing called being stealth. Now, being stealth means you go under the radar. It's like being like the stealth bomber type thing. You're trying to be hidden. You're hiding your past. You're hiding what you do on the weekend, all that sort of stuff, you know. But, you know, or you're hiding your partner if you have that sort of thing. What they've actually found is, and the best analogy was done to me is, every time you try and hide something, you know, it's like wearing a backpack and you're putting a rock in your backpack type thing. And it's the weight. It's the weight. And if you're worried about the weight of the backpack and not your current job, therefore, you're not going to be fully productive. Your focus is looking differently. What I would say to young people is, one, your career is not over. Let's be very clear. Two, only come out if you feel safe, because there is still some workplaces that you are not going to feel safe. If you don't feel safe, then don't come out. You don't have to be out there type thing. But, you know, maybe that's a conversation about, is that the right workplace for you? And that's a different conversation. But I would say basically be free, you know, be the person, as I said, be that project manager, be the best of your field who happens to be trans. As soon as you do that, you're then defined by your job, not by your gender and all that sort of stuff. And I say that to women as well. Don't get me wrong. You need to actually be the best of you, what you can actually do. And, you know, try and actually, you know, be open and comfortable, but it's only as open and comfortable for where you feel comfortable type thing, because you don't know what,
of course.
You know, you will know who you can come out to. You know who you can be honest with you. You know that through your relationships with those people, you know. But, you know, you also need to do it in a safe and a respectful manner.
Yeah, I guess, you know, it's different to what it was in the 90s. You know, we are talking about it every day. We're having a Zoom about it tonight. The conversations are there. So it's about picking your time and picking your victim, I guess, and then being safe when you do it.
Yeah, exactly. And you'd be surprised about, you know, what allies are out there. Now, I expect everyone to go back into their workplaces and, I went and had a good talk about this because basically is more that people have a conversation about this. And now you had a conversation that you heard a trans person who's actually in IT, you'd be quite surprised how, that's actually a trigger for someone to say you're an ally.
Yeah,
You're actually giving that person a safe space because basically, if you weren't a safe person, you would not have gone to a talk, got to talk about it type thing. So one step for allyship, and I say this for everyone, is start having a conversation. This is being recorded. Put it onto your social media saying, I heard this good talk about whatever. That's not just promoting me, but that's a side benefit of this. But anyway, that's a different conversation. But this is all about you actually saying that you're an ally. You're an actual safe person to be around for an actual person of LGBTI, because that's going to start a conversation. And that's basically what you need to actually do, is start a conversation. And you will have questions, you'll have that sort of stuff. And that's fine. That's not a problem. Yeah. But the best thing to do for anyone who's LGBTI, and especially for anyone who's young or even older type thing, is to actually provide them a safe space and actually know that you are an ally. So basically by having a conversation about tonight, you actually are becoming allies, which is great, which is awesome.
Incredible advice. I think just in the same way as I cast my eye over the chat, I can see one of the members asking, what advice would you give to parents of young people who are, kids might be doubting their gender, they may be sure, they mightn't be sure, they're having a question. What advice would you give to those parents? And obviously, having gone through your own journey, what advice do you have for these new parents?
Well, look, first of all, I need to say this, I'm not a parent. So I'm not going to give anyone any parental advice, because that's dangerous at the best of times, don't think. But what I would say to you is listen to your child. Your child will know where they're at type thing. We don't think they are, but your child will actually know type thing. If they are transgender, they will actually know type thing. That's not the people that I know who are trans, they've known at a younger age. They were waiting for a time where they could actually be, be safe to come out and all that sort of stuff. So as a parent, I'd say open up a dialogue with your children, making sure that you're providing a safe space for the children type thing. Educate yourselves type thing. There's some really great Facebook pages in regards to being, trans parents and all that sort of stuff, which is great. Educate yourself. There's plenty of forums where you can go in and get advice from people who are going through that. But, gender these days is fluid. You don't have to be one or the other. I know that's a concept that I'm getting around in my head, and that's okay, which is cool. I'm learning as well. But, just listen to your child type thing. And it doesn't mean it's the end of their life. It's a journey. Life is all about a journey. You have speed humps and you have freeways. It's all about the journey. So, that's all I'm saying about that. So, yeah, I'm not a parent, seriously. I don't yet. I have a dog. That's about the closest thing I am to a parent. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, I guess for everyone, it's about giving someone the space to have a conversation. Doesn't matter what the outcome is. It's just having a safe space for someone to be able to say, hey, this is where I'm at, and then dealing with it together and growing together, because no one has the answers to everything that's going on. You've just said yourself, there's some things you've got to wrap your head around. So it's not just as easy as it seems. It's growing together.
And I do say when someone is transitioning, it's just not about them. Yes. It's the people around them that is also transitioning type thing. I mean, if I talk about my own personal journey type thing, my eldest brother, who is very adorable type thing, he's around about 15 years older than me, which is great type thing. He just couldn't get over the loss of his baby brother. I kept on telling him he's got a baby sister now, and he says that, but I didn't. That's the person's changed. I went, well, the person's more mouthy. The person's actually like throwing insults back at you this time. No, I'm not the mousy little child that you thought I was. Excellent, not a problem. But, and that took me a number of years for me to acknowledge as well, because basically he's going through a loss through himself and all that sort of stuff. And so this is what I'm saying is when people are going through this, it's just not the individual.
That's right.
It's actually the people around them as well that's doing there. And it's okay for those people to reach out for help as well.
Of course.
And that's the important thing, because everyone's going through this journey. Yes.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks for that. Just bring it back to the IT, because I see there's another question up the top there. Yeah. And so just in terms of what do you see the future of women in IT? And that just links up with one of the questions where someone says, what is the estimated ratio of female to male employees in IT in other countries, given that you've traveled extensively? Just to tie those two things up, what are those numbers that you see, and what do you see happening in the future for this industry, as well as, which I suppose will lead into other industries, just women in their careers?
So I think, so I can see at the moment that the young ones that are coming through type thing, the ratio for male to female is actually coming into bid parity type thing. And that's because organisations are deliberately recruiting females. There is actually actively drives for women in IT type thing. There's a thing called Fem in STEM, which is a very good organisation, which is actually about getting women actually in technology and all that sort of stuff, which is great. And I'm part of trying to actually help them break down some barriers for there, which is great. So I'm seeing at the moment in the lower bands, there is starting to become a bit of a parity. There is of the senior level. It's still, the ratio is just not, it's not a comfortable ratio type thing. If you have a look at IBM, yes, the head of Australia is Australia and New Zealand is a female, which is great, fantastic, not a problem. But of her direct reports type thing, I would say around about, less than 30% are actually female. And that's here in Australia and New Zealand. Last time I was in India, which was before COVID, obviously, I was greatly happy to see the amount of females actually in the office was slowly and surely getting bigger and bigger and bigger type thing. It's still not to the 50%. I would still say it's around about the 30% female, 70% male in India type thing. But again, there is some really good programs that are happening in India at the moment about getting women into IT and basically once they're in IT, supporting them through their promotion cycles, because that's the other big barrier is getting women into IT. There's some really great programs, but actually the promotion of women to more senior roles, I think that's the next thing that organisations need to tackle, because we don't actually see that. Yes, I think we got parity on boards at the top 100 the other day. I think I saw something on one of that, which was great, fantastic. But it's also about people stepping up. It's also about women stepping up into those roles and giving themselves a chance. I've seen time and time again, if you see a job description which has 10 things, a guy will go, I've done 8 of them. Yep, yeah. I'll apply for it. They'll do 7. They'll do 7 or 8 of them. If they can do 7 or 8 of them, yep, they'll apply for it. Whereas women will go, I need to do the whole 10 type thing. No, you don't need to do the whole 10. You need to actually start to actually think. Give yourself a stretch. Most promotions are a stretch. It's not a comfort thing. Yeah. You've actually got to be able to stretch yourself and all that sort of stuff. I mean, the times I've seen people who, especially males, who are so underqualified in senior leadership positions is just amazing. And that's because they have done 60% is good enough. Excellent, not a problem. And that's how they've actually got the job. They applied for the job, and because no one else was actually there, they've actually got the job by default type thing. So I think we need to, as women, take a punt. We need to back ourselves, and we actually need to back our community and all that sort of stuff, because that's one of the biggest things that I do find, that when I do networking, it's actually not just on the LGBTI space. I do network quite heavily into female space, and actually getting people to stand up
Yeah.
and has been very, very difficult to see. And me basically literally pushing people to stand up and say, why aren't you applying for that job? You're more than qualified for that. You are more qualified than Bob for that. You should actually be doing that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you need to be doing. So yeah.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, what you're saying, you know, it's about the men going for those jobs or those promotions and getting it. It's not so much that they're ballsy enough to go for it. Is most of the time we don't back ourselves. I read a great book the other day about women don't ask for the corner office. You know, we don't get the corner office because we don't ask for it.
Yeah.
We've just been so used to being suppressed. We don't ask for what we want. And then we sit back and go, oh, why didn't that happen to me? But he got it. But it's not so much that the man just did it. He didn't get it just because he went for it. We just didn't back ourselves. So it's very good that you're saying that. So I'm just having a look onto the chat side, onto the chat bit here, and I can see just as we're leading to a close, although I'm sure there's a lot more that we could talk about. Mona's just asked us, have you had the experience of no, we've done that one. Where's this last message? Sorry, have you? Wait, hang on, Mona. Oh, she sent me a direct message. It's about a sisterhood. As a woman in IT, is there an actual sisterhood? Have you felt it? Is it just individual? And your mentors, are they mostly male or female?
Okay. Well, my sisterhood, I have seen. It's been interesting for the sisterhood in IT type thing. I do find the sisterhood at my level type thing is really, really good type thing. And I don't say I'm like in senior management. I'm not talking upper management. I'm talking senior management. I think the sisterhood for my level is very good. Great, not a problem. I think at upper management, it is atrocious. I think it's more dog eat dog world. They're not wanting to actually support. I have not seen that here in ANZ for that senior level, that upper management to actually of the sisterhood type thing. I don't see it type thing. And unfortunately, it's, yeah, I've not seen it send at that level.
Yeah, I guess there's just more work to be done than within.
Yeah, there needs to be more work to be done.
That's part of the social voice that you've been using. I guess it just needs to travel up the ladder along with, you know, everyone progressing their careers. Then,
and it's and you know, and as for my mentors, I do have female mentors, but most of mine are male mentors and all that sort of stuff. And it's only because when I've asked for females to be mentors, they're just going, why would you want me to be a mentor? Or am I actually wanting their job? It's like, I don't want your job. I want to actually learn and actually grow from you and all that sort of stuff. So it's very interesting. So I just go male mentors type thing. I would say I have about 5 mentors, you know, for different things. I have 2 females and 3 males.
That's incredible.
As my mentors type thing. And I mentor a lot of people myself. I have, you know, I mentor grads, I mentor trans people, I mentor non-trans people. You know, I give myself as much as what people want and all that sort of stuff, because, you know, I find helping someone else in their career, you know, it's not about me now. It's about them. And that's one of the things that I do like about this is, and once you get over it's not about me, it's actually not about me anymore. You know, I don't come out not about me. I come out because there is someone else who's actually needs a mentor, who needs a shining light. I do something because by me doing it, it makes it easier for someone else type thing. You know, that's why I'm out. That's why I do stuff these days. That's why I come talk to you guys, is just trying to break down barriers and allow basically people to, you know, ask questions and, you know, make it normalize what is being trans in IT as well. And we're coming close to time, so I'm going to be quiet because I think you have to do close. I can talk for hours.
Yeah, I love what you just said there again, and it's about backing yourself. Just as we come to a close on the session, I don't want to keep anybody from their dinner, but I've really enjoyed my time with you, and I guess there's a lot of things we haven't covered, and I want to thank you for shining the spotlight on a lot of things that I guess some of us probably haven't ever thought about, for introducing these thoughts into our heads and for allowing allowing a safe space for us to get to know you better. So I'm incredibly honored to be in your presence tonight, along with everybody else. So maybe just a few words in closing, and then Johanna, once Catherine's done, over to you.
Look, I just want to say thank you, guys. If you want to reach out to me via LinkedIn, it's Catherine Maver, that's how you spell it, type thing. If you want to have a conversation, if you want to continue the conversation, I'm more than happy to do that. Happy to have a conversation with your employee and your work groups and all that sort of stuff. Or even if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to take them on board. So that's easy. And happy to come back and chat on any other topic you need. So which is
Thank
good.
you, Catherine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Catherine. And Nikki, thanks for being a fabulous MC tonight. Catherine, it's just been amazing. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful experience having you, hearing from you, hearing your experiences, and such a power behind you, which is great. Like, you know, an inspiration on so many levels, and it's good to see. And I like the fact that you sort of, you know, you have to just stand up for yourself, and then don't worry about what you are or who you are. It's you, and then and the rest is part of you. But first, it's you and your abilities, which is a fabulous message. So thank you very much. This has been our second speaker series, and so it's been wonderful. Thanks for being our speaker tonight.
Thank you.
Yes, so we've got well, I should say something about So Optimist. Sorry, I've got the big 100 behind me. So I can see some faces who've been with us last time as well, last month. But yeah, generally So Optimist, we are a service organization for women, by women. And I'm the president currently from So Optimist Randwick and Eastern Suburbs. And we meet once a month. And we are a worldwide organization. With the first club started in the US, and we just celebrated 100 years and have over 72,000 members in 121 countries. So we're a bit everywhere. But for our club, and we have a representative status or consultative status at the UN as well. So we're quite far-reaching in a way, and have opportunities to make our voice heard, which is great. On a local level, we've got our club is 68 years old, and we've been really excited now to be able to do some of our projects face to face again. So we're delighted. We're working with local primary schools. We're working on literacy for children. So our main aim is to provide assistance for women in need and children in need. And it's our work with domestic violence shelters. It's our work with providing special bags, welcome bags for vulnerable mothers on the maternity ward in the Royal Hospital for Women, or baby bundles for newborns at the Royal Hospital for Women. Also education, so providing education, and that was probably one of our topics today as well, is educate, isn't it? It's just get the message out, make it a comfortable, normal talk on all levels, versus, you know, having all this stigma or question or just not knowing. So education is really the key on all levels, I find. Education then is rural midwives is one of our projects. It's a completely different topic, but so we provide a sponsorship for rural midwives to go to the annual midwifery conference, and then have a training with the city midwives for 2 weeks in the Royal Hospital for Women, where they can exchange. And I've mentioned that before. It's amazing how much resourceful both are, and how much information exchange can happen between rural and city, both ways, which is fascinating. But yeah, so we've been able to do some of our projects face to face, and we're quite excited about that. What am I doing on time? Am I doing okay? Yes, so this speaker series is really another way for us to give back to community, but also introduce fabulous topics too, and you know, bring up some further education into the community. And coming back to you, Catherine, it really has been wonderful. I've been speaking to my children, my son's primary school recently, and about just making topics very factual and normal for children. And I think it needs to start really early, where there is just the theme goes through their life. And they have done amazing books actually for the little children, to educate them on trans and on same-sex partnerships. And yeah, so it's really nice to see that. Sorry, I got off topic. But I have been very inspired by you, Catherine. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will actually have another series coming up, one more this year in December, and it will be online again, and it will be Extraordinary Women in Sports. So that will be on Wednesday. Yeah, on Wednesday, the 1st of December. And then hopefully as of February next year, we will be able to have face-to-face meetings. So we'll have we have actual venues, and we'll be able to touch each other, shake hands, give each other hugs. But yeah, so stay tuned. And thank you very much for joining us tonight, everyone. And again, thank you, Catherine, and thank you, Nikki.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Take good care.
Thanks,
Catherine,
bye.
see you around.
Bye.
Yes, no problem, Nikki. Thank you.